Today, I want to talk about something that every believer should be desiring and wanting and hoping and longing for. And that thing is to know God. When it comes to knowing God, you know, you would think that knowing God is to just read the Word, the Bible, uh, go to church and hear about Him, and stuff like that from the pastor or preacher, but that's not the case. That's not what it really means to know God. An example of this is, I'll give you the scripture verse actually, and I'll read it. And it's Exodus chapter 20 verse 5. Now it says, thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I, the Lord thy God, I am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, unto the third and the fourth generation of them that hate me. Now, obviously, to give you context, God is giving the Ten Commandments here to Moses, right? But he's saying that, he's saying something actually, and he's revealing something to Moses that I want you to catch. And he says that I, the Lord thy God, I am a jealous God. Now, for God to say something like this, to reveal something like this to Moses, is you wouldn't normally hear it from, like, this is not something you would really think too much about. Like, you wouldn't really think that, oh, God is a jealous God, like, and to what, when it says jealous here, it's talking about, because the context here is that, the Israel at this used to, before, were kind of serving idols, especially, I believe, before even Moses was as Moses actually was up in Mount Sinai, receiving commandments. They were even committing idolatry down, if you remember. So, and God is saying that he's a jealous God, in the sense of he does not like unfaithfulness, right? So, which makes sense, that kind of spiritual unfaithfulness where you give yourself to other gods. He does not appreciate that. He does not like that. He likes when people are faithful to him and follow him. And another scripture I want to give, just to make it more clearer what it means to know God, is in Exodus chapter 34 and verse 14. At this time, Moses came down, right, and was telling them the commandments. And he said, for thou shalt worship no other God, for the Lord whose name is jealous, he is a jealous God. Can you even imagine? Moses already received another, from that same time, from that same moment, Moses received another revelation saying that his name is jealous. So, and he says he is a jealous God, right? So even his name, the Lord's name, is jealous. So for someone, so an example here that I'll give so that it won't look too confusing. Now, imagine you have a friend, right? Now, that friend, you couldn't have possibly known him. You couldn't have possibly knew him, right? And most things about him, unless he told you, right, about himself. I don't know, for example, like, he gave you stories about himself, maybe stories of what he used to do back in the day, maybe things he used to hate or things he hates. He wouldn't tell any other person except from the person who is his friend, right, which is you. These things are more reserved for people who are more closer to God, who know him. You understand? This is how he reveals himself. You understand? Another scripture I wanted to give was in Daniel, and that's chapter 11 verse 32. And it says, and such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries, but the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits. Now, for context, anyways, real quick, in this scripture, is saying that, you know, at this time, sorry, the Israel was still compromising and wasn't really in a way giving their all to God, right? They weren't really serving God. They were serving other idols, just like in Exodus, right? They were serving other idols. They refused to, to really follow God and to obey him, right? But God is saying that the people who know their God shall be strong and do exploits, right? Now, I've had times where, and what he's saying, anyways, I'll give an example. There are times in my life where I've called on the name of God, right? And for a certain situation, and God immediately answers, right? That's the kind of exploit he's saying. And there are other times in my life where I didn't have maybe the knowledge, maybe I didn't have the capacity to do something, right? But and yet God still gave me the understanding, the strength to be able to accomplish it, even though it wasn't within my capacity to do it. But because I know him, sorry, I'm able to do that. So he's saying that only the people that know him will be able to be strong and do exploits, you know. So so just to conclude, what I want you guys that are following and that listen to me, is to always ask God to reveal himself to you, and for you to know him better, right? Because you won't be able to know God until he says and reveals himself to you, right? Just the same way as a friend, you won't be able to know a friend until the person tells stories, tells things about himself that he wouldn't really tell others, right? I'll make another part 2 about this, about knowing God, and give you a few more scriptures. So stay tuned. Like and subscribe if you like this video, and God bless.